Welcome to the Rock Your Dream Body and Dream Life interview series. Today, I am interviewing my good friend, Angie Lee. So just to tell you a little bit about Angie, she's a business strategist and life coach. After 6 years as an expert in the health industry, Angie is now a business mentor for highly motivated health coaches ready to create a profitable online brand. Angie helps her clients get to the heart of the barriers that are holding their business back and identify the exact strategy needed to grow an online brand they love. Her mission is to help highly ambitious, aspiring entrepreneurs achieve complete financial freedom. So welcome, Angie.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Me too. I feel like, so we've done interviews with each other before, and we've had such great conversations, and I feel like these are the types of things that the more examples I give of women who are just rocking it and just are so in alignment with their goals and dreams and have gone through a lot of these things that a lot of women struggle with to find that place, the more people can relate to that and then be like, oh my gosh, I can if she did it, I can do it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So why don't we start out with your story of really how you began rocking your dream body and your dream life by your definition?
Wow. I love that question. Let's see. In 2008 or 2009, I launched Angie Lee Health. It was a blog at the time. I didn't really have the intention of it becoming a business. I just knew I wanted to share my thoughts and my testimonies with my clients that I was personal training and doing nutrition for. And I was doing bikini competitions at the time. So I was kind of like collaborating like food, nutrition, workouts. And then I kind of ebbed and flowed with that and got into more of like balanced eating, realized I got a large following. You know, that's the beauty of blogging is you don't really know what it can turn into. So my blog turned into a business 6 years later. Angie Lee Health became my business, obviously, for 6 years. And now as of, January, I'm now teaching women in the online space, specifically health coaches, how to build their online presence and how to build their brands.
That's so awesome.
That's like the little Cliff Notes version of how it all happened.
and so what made you transition?
Yeah, it was interesting. I realized that I even had my own life coach and we were talking about really finding your zone of genius. And I realized that you can drive and as a coach, you can, be in different vehicles. So you're helping women with their health, you're helping them with their confidence. And, at the end of the day, you could be doing all these different things, but sometimes it might not be in your zone of genius. So we were just kind of tapping into that, my own coach. And I just found this crazy passion to really talk about money with women and financial freedom and that feeling of helping a woman get debt free or live her dream life as far as her business, like gets me going now way more than health. So I was like, you know what? I'm all about tapping into what feels good at the moment. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I'm like, I'm going to run with this. So I started a few of my clients on the side. They were like, hey, teach me how you did what you did. I'm like, okay. So I just did it very casually. Didn't think it would be a business. And the next thing you know, they're telling 5 people, they're telling 5 people. And I woke up one day and said, well, I might as well just run with this. So it's kind of how it evolved.
It's so interesting too, because I think a lot of times we think, oh, well, if like this is my passion right now, it's going to be my passion forever.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the case. It can kind of evolve as you continue to expand yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was my fear is I built such an identity in Angie Lee Health. Like literally people would know me for that. Like I'd be at the gym and let's say someone locally be like, oh, hey, Angie Lee Health. I'm like, it's not even my name. It literally became my identity. So it was really difficult. It was like I had a kid, you know what it's like. You build a business, it's your child, you love it, but you also want to grow and evolve yourself. So I'm like, what do I do? And I really feel that what I learned through building that business was so crucial. I wouldn't be able to do what I do now. So everything happens for a reason and everything's a stepping stone for something else.
Yeah, it really is. And you don't really know what that whole plan is going to look like until you like take that first step and then you take the next step.
Yeah. So you just jump in the water.
So what are some of the steps that you begin working with people on when they're like, okay, I'd like to create an online brand for myself, but I don't know where to start?
Yeah. For a lot of women, we first pick a traffic source is what I call it. So are they going to be a blogger? Are they going to do videos? I strongly encourage video just because right now video is taking over in the online space. It's a great way to connect. We pick a traffic source for her and then we really dive into her brand. I tell women, if you don't know who you are and who you're serving, your target market, your client avatar, then you're pretty much just going to be spitting stuff out. And in the health industry, if you're not unique and know what your thing is or your niche or your hook, you're going to be drowned out in the online space, because there's so many women online saying they want to be a health coach and help everyone get healthy. And I think it's so important to know exactly who you are and what makes you a little different. So I guess I would say my first steps with my clients now is we're really trying to get her to own her brand and figure out who that is so she can fly.
Yeah. Well, and so how do you determine, I know like a lot of people have ideas and things that they're passionate about, and sometimes they feel like, is this a hobby or is this a business? Like, how do I know what's, whether I should take it to the next level?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I do a lot of, have you ever seen, there's a chart, basically it's called the sweet spot. So it's the things that you're exceptional at, the things that light up your soul that you love doing, and then things that people will compensate you for. So I literally, with some of my clients, will get out virtually, or if they're local, get out a piece of paper and say, there's sometimes things we love and that light up our soul, but don't really make money. So it's like, it's not worth our time. Or there's things that make money and we're really good at them, but it doesn't light up our soul. So like, we also shouldn't do it. So we kind of keep going until we find what blends really well. And I think there is a zone of genius in that sweet spot for everyone of those three components. So that's pretty much what we do, is we go through the process of, is what you want to do realistic? Will it be profitable? And if so, let's figure out how to maximize on that.
Yeah, that's good. And so when they're kind of going through that process and figuring out what types of things that they can be compensated for, and I know you like talking about money, do you feel like women sometimes have trouble receiving money for those types of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I really do. I think it's really interesting. I'll give you an example of what a conversation I have with a lot of my health coaches is. I'll say, how long have you been health coaching online? Oh, about 6 months or a year. I'm really good at it. I have a lot of women that I'm helping with, close family, friends, my warm market. I say, great. What's your pricing in your packages? How is that going? What's your sales model? What's your system? Oh, I don't charge anybody yet. I mean, I'm too nice. I don't want people to think that I charge them for this. And I'm like, what? Are you out of your mind? Because you're only doing a disservice to that client then too. And they're also telling me that clients being flaky. So I love getting women in that place of owning what you do and knowing that sales is awesome, right? If you love what you do and if you have a good product, I work with a lot of network marketing girls right now and Isogenics and Beachbody. So if they love the product, why would you feel shameful of that? You're giving something of value to someone. So the money mindset is something that I've noticed in a lot of women right now, female entrepreneurs, is that they have a difficult time charging for what they do and upping the price point. So I'm kind of their cheerleader that's like, listen, own what you do, put a good value on it, and you'll be surprised. A woman will actually pay that, So that's something we kind of work on, is helping her build that confidence around what is her value.
Yes, that's actually the topic I want to talk about, getting into value. And so when I work with clients and we talk about like, how good are you willing to let it get and all of that stuff, this is where a lot of that not good enough, like not receiving, not allowing yourself to receive at that level, that stuff comes up. And so when you work with clients on knowing your value, what are some of the steps that you take them through to really get connected with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. With a lot of women, I tell them to kind of try it out and see, right? So if their price point is they're not charging right now, I say, okay, let's find a price point that feels comfortable for you. It's challenging a little bit, but it's still what you want. It's not what I would ideally put for your 3-month package or whatever you're doing, but let's, get your toes wet. So she'll do it. And 9 out of 10, she'll usually reach out and say, oh my gosh, Angie, I got a bunch of girls signed up, or, oh my gosh, they didn't even question it. And I'm like, yes, people will, because then they know you're serious and they won't be flaky with you. So I have them kind of just get wet with it and jump in, right? And say, listen, you need to first just put it out there that is your value. And I think that clients can sense that. And I don't know if this is something you've noticed in women too, is if you don't have a good money mindset, I think your clients can notice that. So I really tell them, listen, what you're doing is a disservice to them and you. So yeah, I love talking about money with women now. I think it's a white elephant that can be not made awkward. And I think it could be a fun topic if we get comfortable with it. But women are so a little bit taboo about it still, especially in the online space.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think a lot of times people don't realize, in the online world, it is a business. And that's part of receiving money, asking for money, having programs where you are working one-on-one or whatever level it is, there's a price attached to it because of the value that you're providing. And that's the key thing there too, is that when you think about, and I'm sure this is what you teach too, is this idea of it's about the end result. Like, who are you going to become by going through this program?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I love seeing is when my client, I remember she texted me and said, oh, I sold my first high-end package. And I knew at that moment, it wasn't about the money. It was the idea that she now is living in a world where of course she's worth that. And she was charging, a few $100 and now she's in the 1,000 to 5,000 range. I mean, it's a different world. It's a mindset of like, oh my gosh, I am good at this. I do deserve to have this. So it's even funny when I listen to her talk now, she's like this new person. And I'm like, that's it. The only thing that changed is that she finally realized she was worth the next income, like the next income bracket, almost like the next level. And when you're an entrepreneur, as you know, you have to make that income bracket for yourself. It's not like someone's going to show up at your door and say, well, here's your paycheck. You have to constantly assess and say, okay, what am I worth now? How much value am I putting out? Just like Tony Robbins says, if you want to make more money, you just got to put out more value. Yeah. So we kind of restructure it. And I say to women, because this is the phone call we'll always have, is I want to make more money. I want to make more money. And we'll break it down and say, where are you giving value and where can you give more value? So I love what you said about that. I think that's so true that I don't know what it is. I think maybe in 2016, women just kind of need to listen to things like this and really realize it's okay to accept that abundance around money.
And I do think that business is changing. I mean, so there's definitely still, not entrepreneurship is not for everyone, and that's okay. Like working in the corporate world, whatever makes you light up, whatever that job is, do that thing. But in 2016, there's so many opportunities to receive multiple streams of income where when you start to open yourself up to this idea of how cool it is that there is network marketing as an option, or there is online business as an option, then you can start to see like, whoa, it really is limitless. Like there is no limit to the amount of abundance that I can receive for myself.
Yeah. And I think that's what almost is scary for a lot of women. We were just talking about that before we got on the call is, we have a difficult time as women, I think, accepting that upper limit theory of like, can it really be this good? Can you really have an awesome relationship, great money, a great job? Like, can it all really be up here? And if you've read that book, The Big Leap, that's what he talks about, is saying that you can, but for some reason, society makes us think that, well, your finances are going well, then your relationship must suck. Like, why can't it all just be level? So that's something we discuss. I mean, anytime you're talking about money with women, I do have to bring up other aspects of their life. Because I do believe how you treat money is kind of how you treat everything, like food and emotional eating and all that stuff that we love coaching too about. So,
yeah, I actually say that like how you do food is how you do life, but it's really how you do anything is how you do everything, because everything's connected. And I love that you say it doesn't have to be like one thing's great and the other thing's, it's like something's got to give. You really can have it all. It's mostly, and this is something that's been coming up in all of these interviews, is it's this idea of alignment and really getting yourself into that space where you have like, empowering beliefs about all of those different things, and all of that like inner work is what leads to having everything running like the well-oiled machine that it can be.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And it's interesting, when I got into this, I didn't realize all the limiting beliefs around money until I started now as a business coach, realizing that women do. So now it's like, it kind of does prove, until you jump into something, you don't realize what aspects of it you really love. And I love it now. I love talking to women about their income goals. I think it's so fun. When before, I mean, this is a new world for me. I was talking to women about food. So now it's like kind of like same thing as I'm talking about women in mindset and confidence, but it's a totally different vehicle now. So
yeah. So you use some of the same principles that you did before with food now on money.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like I used to be on phone calls with women about binge eating, emotional eating, stress after work, hating their jobs. And then that would lead them to binge eat. And now it's like, I don't have enough money because my relationship isn't working. So it's like, I'm like, whoa, everything does kind of just intertwine, and it's incredible. And I love it. That's what I love about life coaching, is you're really taking all aspects of their life and figuring out how to align them. Alignment is key.
Yeah. So for some of those clients, like what are some of the steps that you take them through? Like when either, whether you're talking about food or money, either way, how do you start to break them through or break out of that process?
Yeah, absolutely. We first kind of assess where those limiting beliefs are coming from. And a lot of times it's interesting, women will admit that they're coming from outside sources. So people in their life, whether that people that could still love them, but maybe their dad or their mom or their cousins or the significant other who says, well, you can't really make that much. Like, who are you to make 5-figure months? Who are you to make 6 figures a year? Who are you to do that, especially in the online space? So a lot of the network marketing girls I talk to, they'll say, well, my husband thinks what I'm doing is silly. I'm like, well, you better sit him down and show him this is the real deal, because network marketing in the online space of being a health coach isn't a joke. Like, you can make a ton of money. So if you do it right and systematically and you're patient. So I love to have them have that conversation with their husband. I say, sit him down, say, listen, this is real. This is what I'm doing. Support me, be with me, and know that you don't have to agree with everything I do, but just be there to support me. So a lot of times it's having them assess their outside world, and their limiting beliefs. That's usually my best step for them, is versus realizing where is that idea that they can't have it all coming from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it totally blocks you.
Yeah. And that breaks my heart to hear that, because I know their husband means well and he just wants to make sure they're safe and secure, but it's kind of a bummer when I have that such an entrepreneur spirit. So I'm like, how does their husband not think this is great? But when he doesn't know anything about network marketing, or he doesn't even know that there is the opportunity in the online space, I can assume he thinks it's silly. So
yeah, when you don't know anything about something, it's very easy to have beliefs that like, oh, well, it doesn't work, or nobody does it, because in your world, it's true.
It's like everyone does in my own little world.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if like he's just not used to that kind of stuff, then obviously it's going to seem like a bad idea, because he doesn't have those references built up as to why.
Yeah.
So that's really great. Like you said, showing him, and even showing examples. It's the same thing whether we're talking about food or money, like building references for yourself, whether that's other people's stories or, the reasons why things have worked for you in the past in a similar way, whatever that is, to help you build those references of belief so that, like this can work. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is cool. I tell women to have that middle spot of, you have inspiring people that you follow, so it's possible, but delete their, don't follow every single person, in their newsletter, and don't have your inbox filled with all of that either, because it's kind of drowns out your own voice. So I teach a lot of my clients to almost unsubscribe from all of their favorite people, because then they wake up every day and they're just getting ideas from them, and they need to, now that they're the teacher and not the student, they need to also tap in. So I always tell them, have a blend, and I'll do that now. I have women I look up to that I'll go to their pages or read some stuff for inspiration, but I'm not sitting there consuming it all day long, because I know now that as a business coach, I have to take that position of a leadership and a teacher, and I can't be watching other business coaches all day and being obsessed with Marie Forleo, 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that weird mix, and I'm even finding myself in a new industry of where is inspiration versus consumption. So I'm trying to find that middle ground.
Do you have specific books on abundance or money that you recommend?
That's very interesting. I don't know if there's one specific book. I'd have to, what? I am a huge fan of Tony Robbins. So I guess that's where a lot of my abundance stuff came from. I love his books on tape. I love his interviews. I love his podcasts. I love his live events that I've been to. He was the first person to really open my mind about abundance. But I know there's so many other people that I'm sure too, that in the industry of life coaching, who've been doing it forever, that all kind of have that same system of how they teach about abundance.
Yeah. And I love his story. I love thinking of people who have created massive abundance for themselves. And you think through his story. He came from nothing. He didn't have anything. He's not like this. He didn't come out of his mother's womb as a rock star,
Yeah.
He had a lot of stuff that he had to work through too. And so I think that a lot of times we let our beliefs hold us back, when in reality, it's our story, that old story, instead of being that thing that holds you back, and it actually can be that reason why you become successful.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting too, I always tell women to be the woman you want to be tomorrow, today, which means if you want to be a woman who makes six figures, they all want to make six figures. Well, you kind of have to almost pretend and act like you are her today. What would she wear? What would she say? How would she interact with people? Who would she network with? How would she hold herself? How confident would she be? And they all want to do it the other way. They want to make the money first and then know what it feels like. I'm honestly, you're going to feel like the same person, it just more maybe abundant or more confident, or maybe your happiness will be the same, right? I mean, money sometimes doesn't change anything unless you're genuinely happy. So I always tell them, just pretend you are her first. And a lot of my clients have difficulty doing that, but they find that to be a great exercise. I don't think you make the money you want until you firmly in your gut and in your bones and your body, you believe that you deserve to make that money. I think we hold ourselves back. I really do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a really good point. I think that, we hear a lot if you do follow different blogs or people and the online space about building money and financial abundance or building a business, they talk about working really freaking hard. You have to work really, Gary Vee, I think one of his quotes is you work until your eyeballs bleed or something.
Yeah.
And I understand why he does it, because I think he's that passionate that it just makes him feel really good. But I do think that there's a little bit of a disconnect there, because working really, really, really hard doesn't necessarily give you the life of your dreams.
Yeah.
It might create the money, But
Yeah.
if you're unhappy when you get there, then what does it matter, right? Like,
Yeah. That's so true. And I think that's interesting, the masculine and the feminine energy. And I was actually talking to Lori Harder about this when I interviewed her on my podcast. I said, it's interesting how Gary Vee, he runs his business super masculine, which is fine. I think we need strategy. We need systems. We need, how do you actually make the money? But as women, I think our biggest advantage is that we are intuitive and that you can run this business in a way that's like very heart-centered and know when to rest. And I call myself the sprinter. So I know when I need to like push and put out a program and make a lot of money, but I also know when I need to like slow it down and relax and embrace. And then if I watch Gary Vee, sometimes I'm like, whoa, I'm just going to go crazy, So I think it is good to know, like, we are women. You're not Gary Vee. Like, he's a guy. He's going to run a business different. He wants to not sleep. I need to sleep to be successful. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't believe in that whole, like, sleep when you're dead. Like, I need to sleep so I can function the next day. So I tell women, if you are a coach in the online space, network marketing, whatever you're doing, if you are the commodity, you have to take care of yourself, because you literally are the commodity. Like, if I don't feel good, the business doesn't do anything. So I'm all about, and I know you are too, like self-love days and rest days and massages. And it's not to be selfish, but it's to say, like, who am I if I'm not happy? Like, where's my business if I'm not happy? So I always tell women, I still sleep. I make time to work out. I eat well. Like, I don't do the whole, like, stay up till 4 a.m. writing stuff. It's just not my jam. And there's times in the beginning of entrepreneurship where you do have to sacrifice, but I think you get to pick which sacrifices that is. And I don't know, I maybe you could share a little bit on how it worked for you too, but I chose to sacrifice maybe a little bit of social life so I could still have sleep. I chose which things I had to sacrifice. So
yeah, well, and I think it's a balance that you only really learn by doing, again, like taking that first step. And then, like, a lot of times I tell my clients, like, act, analyze, adjust, like, take action, see if it worked, and then make adjustments based on whatever happened. And that's where you kind of have to play with that. Cause I know, like, myself, there was a time with, my previous business where I definitely put the business before my relationship, and that was something that I later look back on and say, oh, like, we were chasing this dream of, like, getting there. And then when we get there, then we'll relax and then we'll spend time together and we'll do all these things.
It doesn't happen like that.
And it didn't happen. And then we just, like, grew further and further apart. And so now looking back, I realize I will never do that again, because I know how important it is to really make sure you have that time for connection. And, especially if you're in a relationship, to make sure, like, we are a couple. We're not, like, just two people that are, like, residing in the same house together while we're building our businesses.
And I think it was a wake-up call for me, because I've always been, and I think I got this from my dad, he's been a serial entrepreneur too, is that hustle mode, like, work when others aren't. Like, you have to work harder because the other person's not, that typical, like, Gary Vee mindset. So I grew up as a little girl, like, I have to work when they're not. So I remember sitting down with my life and business coach, this is about a year ago. And I said, okay, I work 7 days a week. I work about 10-hour days. And she looks at me and she goes, are you out of your mind? What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm an entrepreneur. This is the way it's got to be. And she said,
like, this is good, right? I thought this is a good thing.
I know. And she's like, listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make your income skyrocket, and I'm going to only let you work 4 days a week. So we literally had to sit down. I was super nervous to do this, but I had to break it down and say, okay, where am I going to hang out with my boyfriend? Where am I going to, like, breathe for a second? Where am I going to take care of me? And since then, I do work way less and I make more, which I think it is possible, but you do have to really sit down and say, how can I make that happen and make that work, and believe that that system can work? Because for me, it was eye-opening when she said, is this how you want to be in 10 years? I said, well, no, in 10 years, I'll only work like 2 days a week. She goes, well, you better, like, start practicing now how much you want to work, because it's not like you're going to wake up in 10 years and be able to work less, because you've already created that system. So I remember literally sitting with her in a cafe, and I just remember, like, that light bulb moment of, wow, I better fix what I'm doing because I am exhausted.
So how did you do that? That's actually a really good point, because we do have a lot of corporate women. We have a lot of women who are running the household and have kids and stuff. They're all watching this series and they want to start a business, but they don't exactly have time to put it as their full focus. So how did you start to, like, literally whittle it down to just 4 days?
Yeah. There's two things. Well, my boyfriend he knew the new rules. So if he saw me working all day on a Sunday, like today, he would say, listen, remember the rule. And I'm like, all right, you're right. He's like, okay, let's go to lunch. Let's go do something. I'm like, yes, I need to get away. Because for me as a creator, I have to get away, because that's where I get my ideas for my content, my videos, my blogs. Like, if I don't have that space, what am I creating? Like, I'm not creating anything. And another thing is I got out the list of things that I love to do, but really weren't worth my time, which stinks. But again, going back to that Venn diagram, my business coach, she said, an example, my podcast, it was fun. It was great. I think as entrepreneurs, we like to do things that stroke our ego or are fun to do. But if you can do another thing that's quicker and more efficient and still just as profitable, you have to kind of like bite the bullet and say, well, I can't really do everything, So we put that on pause right now, which I'm totally fine with now because I have more time and more energy to do live video or interviews and other stuff for my group programs. So it was hard because of course the selfish part of me wants to do it because it's fun. But I think you also have to know like what's realistic. Like you said in the beginning, like if this isn't making me money to then give me more time, you can really get caught up and there's so much you could do. And I see that a lot too in my clients is they haven't even created a brand and they want to have like a podcast, a YouTube channel, a Twitter account, a Pinterest. I'm like, whoa, girlfriend, like you don't need to do it all.
Yeah.
So I teach them how to kind of pick things that are worth your time and then will be profitable, and everything else, don't even do it. Like, don't waste your time. So I don't know if that's something you kind of had struggles with too, but I think we all want to do it all, but we can't. So
yeah, it's so interesting because now that I'm like, getting near the end of the interviews that I'm doing for this, it's funny to see the different themes that are popping up. And this one that keeps coming through in all of the interviews is this idea of like, make it very simple.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you have to go from 0 to 60. Don't think it has to be really complicated. Just take that first step, or like you're saying, really consolidate or filter the things that don't necessarily bring you joy or money or whatever it is that's the result you're looking for.
Yeah.
And give yourself permission to not do them because it's okay.
Yeah. Simplicity is wealth. I literally wrote that down in my daily binder and I look at it every day. Keep it simple. It's not rocket science. Stick to the system and just go every day and just plug. And I think as women, especially in the online space, I do a lot of online marketing. Like, how do you actually create these sales funnels? How do you do this? And women will just be like, I don't want to do it then. And I'm like, all right, let's bring it back to super simple steps. And then they're successful. So I'm all about simplicity. And I'm also all about delegation now, which I know you're huge on too. You have to be brave enough to hire people to help you. You can't do this all on your own. So I encourage my clients from the get-go, if they're serious, I'm like, get help doing your website or get help doing the things that are really going to stress you out and take too much time. So delegation is huge.
So one of my favorite quotes, I think it was from Richard Branson, is this idea, and it's not really a quote, but it's the idea of like, as an entrepreneur and as a visionary or a person who has this, passion, you have an idea and it's like, you don't have to know how to do everything. You have to know how to bring in the people that can take that piece of your idea and make it like 1,000 times better because they know how to do that thing,
Yeah.
And that's where, and that's why I think he's been so successful, is because he knows how to build a team. He knows how to bring people together that can really expand on an idea and, support it so that it can thrive. So
yeah, I love that. Wow. I love him too. I think he's a great role model and inspiration. So I've never heard that, but that is pretty much how I explain it to my clients is, you're going into health coaching in the online space. I'm not expecting you to be a web designer. Like, where are you? Why are you doing coding? Like, what are you doing? Like, that is so different. And they're like, well, I just spent 16 hours making my homepage. And I'm like, girlfriend, you could have like actually created a program at that time or like connected with clients. Like, client acquisition is what you should be waking up and focusing on. Why are you coding? And she's like, well, I spent 16 hours also on my logo. And I'm like, oh my God. So I love helping women. Like, is that an MMA, which is called a money-making activity? Like, if it's not, like, give it to someone else to do who's really good at it. Yeah. And I love that feeling of like, I don't know a lot about tech. So like, I'm going to get help with it. So I think that's hard for women though, because we want to wear all the hats. We want to almost find pride in exhausting ourselves in the pursuit of making this happen. And that's kind of not really the goal. I've realized the pursuit of this isn't really to exhaust yourself. It's to do it in the most simple way possible.
Well, and when it's your baby, like when your business, when you look at your business as your baby, there's so much fear around releasing that control. Like you think you need to control everything, and that's not how things work. That creates a bottleneck, and that makes things even harder.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's interesting to see the same themes, because now I know kind of what are the limiting beliefs of women when they start these businesses. So they're all very afraid to delegate. So that's something I'm working on now with my clients. Like, be okay with handing off things that you're not good at.
Yeah,
for sure.
Awesome. Well, was there anything that we didn't cover today that you wanted to make sure that you shared? Because I always want to just kind of wrap up with that.
No, I think that's great. I think knowing that, it takes time. I think a lot of women in the online space thinks it happens overnight. And that's the number one question I get is like, how can I make money right away? How can I make my network marketing business triple overnight? And they want things that it takes so much time, and that's fine. It takes patience and baby steps, and just knowing that wherever you are right now, just putting one foot in front of the other. And I know, with network marketing, it's just a game of who can be the most consistent. It's not who can make the most sales overnight. It's literally who's going to literally work on it every single day. And then you wake up one day and it's built. So I think a lot of women need to know it. They have to embrace patience.
Yeah. So there was a video I watched on network marketing. It was like a guy that does marketing for network marketing. And he was talking about how it's like popcorn. So, you're popping popcorn for like 3 minutes. The first minute, nothing happens. The second minute, maybe a couple start popping. And then third minute, that's when everything happens.
Yeah.
And I think there's another story about, I think it's bamboo is the same thing. It takes like a ridiculously long time to grow, and you just have to water, and nothing happens. And all of a sudden it grows like 30 feet.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah. I've heard that one, the bamboo analogy. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I think that is true. I think a lot of them want it to happen overnight, and I don't sugarcoat that when I talk to women and tell my story. I'm like, I literally started this 7 years ago. Like literally, that's a long time, And so I think they think it's like I just started a blog and then got people following it and got clients overnight. And it doesn't work like that. You literally have to go through like the roller coaster.
Yeah.
And know how to just ride it and have as much fun as you can, and just keep going when others aren't. Like I tell women, a funny story I'll end with is, I had a friend who actually saw Marie Forleo on a train. And I guess she went up to her in New York City and was like, Marie, tell me the secret. Like, what makes you different, And Marie's so cool and genuine and nice. And she says, I'm going to be honest with you. The only difference between you and me is time. That's it. It's just time. And I love that story. Like literally gives me chills. I'm like, that's it. It's just consistency. It's just who's keep going. It's not like Marie had something maybe any different. We're all talented. We're all gifted. It's just who can keep going. So I love telling my clients that story. I'm like, even Marie Forleo said it.
Yeah. And you figure stuff out as you go too. Like you become that woman that you need to become in order to handle the business and life that you're creating.
Yeah. You just fall on your face a few times and get back up. And you're like, oh, okay, now I know who I am. And you just continuously keep falling down and getting back up.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, so I know we have a special gift that we're going to be giving people and a way for them to follow up with you if they want to take it further. So where should we send them? And do you also tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. I'm launching a June program. June 26th, this is Become a Sales Queen. So I'm teaching online health coaches how to rock their online business from their branding, their client avatar. It's kind of a mixture of the front end of their business, their branding, and then the back end, like how to master the sales process. So they can go to angieleecoaching.com and all the information's there, or join me on my Facebook pages and jump on in, and I'll give them info there too as well.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Angie.
Thank you. I love this. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to watch them myself. Awesome. I love
really
it.
Good. Okay. Take care.
I'll talk to you soon.
I'll see everyone in the next interview.